My name is Jenne Morton, and I've been the director of the College Street Children's Center since 2007.
Cool. Great. So how did you become involved with the center?
Well, I've been involved in childcare for many, many, many years, and I just saw the advertisement. Actually, I had applied for the job as the director when this center began. The center began in 2000 and was not hired at that point, but saw that the job came up again, and so reapplied and got it at that point.
Great. And when did you know that this was something that you wanted to do, work with kids?
Oh, boy, did I ever know that it was really. I think it's just one of those things that I fell into, like so many of us do, and have just fallen in love with the work. Wasn't anything I planned on doing, but I love doing it.
Cool. Are there any experiences you've had here at the center that have been particularly important to you or have stuck out to you in any sort of way that you can remember?
Not specific circumstances, but I think that the experiences that stick out to me are when I feel like I've made a difference. So for example, if I have a teacher who's struggling with a child and I can give them a little bit maybe information that might help make their job easier, or if I have a family that needs a little extra support and I can do that for them. So whenever I can be a resource for families, children, staff, that's what's important to me.
Yeah. Do you often really feel like you're making a difference in the lives of families here?
Sometimes I do.
Cool.
And sometimes
awesome.
I feel like I'm just doing paperwork.
Nice. What's the most rewarding thing for you about working here?
It's really knowing that we are making a difference in young children's lives. These years are so important. The years, especially from birth to 3, are so incredibly important. And so to feel that we are creating an environment where we can make a difference in these kids' lives is important to me.
Yeah. Can you elaborate on sort of what you think the importance is of the birth to 3 years and like the development of early childcare and all of that? Can you elaborate on why that's so important?
Mm-hmm. For me, I think a huge piece is social emotional. And there are so many adults in this world who don't know how to do simple strategies that kids here are learning. So for example, sharing. We help kids learn to negotiate that really complex business of how do you, when you want something, how do you get it and how do you get it in appropriate ways. And there are adults who don't have those skills. Or the skills of language, so that we give kids the words to talk about what they need, what they're feeling, what their hopes are, what they want to do in their lives. And, again, that's not something every adult needs. Every adult knows how to do.
Yeah, that's great. So do you believe that there are adequate opportunities for early childcare in Addison County and then maybe more broad?
Mm-hmm. I don't think so. I think that, Addison County is, I think, probably a lot of Vermont still struggles with infant-toddler care. It's incredibly expensive to provide that kind of a service because the ratios are so much lower. And so it's really, really hard to have programs that can afford to do infant-toddler care. And so there aren't enough in the county, there aren't enough in the state.
Yeah. Do you provide any sort of financial assistance to some families here at the center? We
do. If families qualify for subsidy, we don't charge them a co-payment. So we just accept the amount that the state gives them.
You talked a little earlier about why early childcare is so important, but could you maybe talk a little bit about how early childcare and early development in a children's life can help to alleviate poverty and sort of what that can look like?
Mm-hmm. I think kids are in poverty for many, many reasons. There's often single parents who are trying to provide for their kids. It's incredibly expensive to pay for childcare. So if families are already not making a livable wage, to have that expense on top of it. So if we can provide good quality childcare at an affordable cost to parents, that's just going to help them. It's going to help them be able to work. It's going to help them be able to, to get on with their lives. I think the second thing is, and I talked about this a little bit, that so many adults don't have the skills that are necessary to negotiate the world. We don't teach kids, we teach kids the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s, but we don't teach them We don't teach them enough about negotiation, about interpersonal skills, about strategies for getting what they want, about how to join a group. So if we can do that for young children, I think that always helps them. Particularly if they've grown up in situations where maybe the parents don't have those skills. You know, and it's hard to keep a job if you can't go to work and be a positive presence. You know, if you're always using the wrong language or you're being really rude, it's hard to keep a job. So if we can give kids those skills really early on, they're going to be more successful later in life.
Great. Can you talk a little bit about, I know this program has a focus sort of on getting kids out into the environment and more connection with land. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think it's critical for kids to spend time outside. You know, when we were growing up, we spent hours and hours out. And kids are becoming more programmed. More and more families are having to work to be able to make it. And so kids are having a lot less time to really experience the outside. And for so many kids, that's a way to really connect with themselves. You know, when they can connect with nature, they can connect with themselves. It's also a time to give them just time to be creative. If you know, kids need unstructured time to be creative.
Yeah. So part of this video is we're also talking about the Parent-Child Center, and I was wondering if you could sort of, Cheryl mentioned that you've sort of seen it through its development and progression. If you could maybe talk about what that center does and something.
Absolutely. Yeah, I worked at the Parent-Child Center for, I lost track, it was 19 or 20 years, but it was an incredible experience for me. I mean, I feel like a lot of what I've been talking about skills for kids, I really learned through them. You know, I learned about how to teach kids respect, but at the same time, independence, autonomy. The work that they do with parents is just amazing. They really, you know, they always talk about reparenting, and that's really what they're doing. And I think I've tried to use some of those skills here. We can't do it in the way that they do because we don't have the resources, we don't have the outreach workers. But I hope that in this center we're trying to do at least a little bit of that so that we're giving parents maybe some strategies to learn how to be in the world a little easier. We're trying to give them a little bit of the resources that the Parent-Child Center can give. So for example, if we have a family that's really struggling, we might offer to give them lunch for a couple of months, because parents do bring their own lunch at this point. The other work that they do that's just amazing to me is around housing, because those are housing and transportation, because those are two of the things that I've seen with families that are struggling here, is transportation to get their kids back and forth to childcare, to even get to work. And so they provide that, and that's a huge, huge bonus to families. And the other thing is transitional housing. You know, that we have families here that we've seen are sleeping on couches. You know, they're in situations where they're staying with relatives, and relationships between them and the relatives are not always that good, and so they'll bounce from place to place, and they're bouncing from place to place with kids. So for the Parent-Child Center to really be making efforts to create more stable living environments for kids is huge. Yeah.
Can you remember any specific time that you, sort of maybe an interaction you had with a family that was struggling that you helped out that was particularly, you noticed that you made a change, or is there something that sticks out to you like that?
You know, as I said, we have limited resources, so we can't do a lot more besides offering to give a family free lunch for a couple of months. I know that was a huge help to this particular family, this particular mom who had just moved into a new apartment and had not a lot of extra money and not a lot of extra time, but she started a new job as well. I think for us, it's more about resources. It's more about helping parents to understand what their kids are doing and why, and that seems to make a big difference for families. You know, I think if they understand what kids are doing, they don't feel quite as frustrated, they don't feel quite as isolated.
And how long were you with the Parent-Child Center?
I think think either 19 or 20 years.
Wow, that's awesome. What was your role there?
Oh, a few different things. I was director of a child care center that they started. I was a teacher. I did resource and referral. I was the Addison County trainer, what's now called the resource development specialist. I ran the kitchen for a while. So a few different pieces.
Great. How have you seen it develop, like now from like when you first started there? What's the growth look like?
It's amazing the amount of programs that they've taken on and the work that they're doing. Is truly amazing. You know, I've just seen it expand, as I said, particularly the expansion into having the transitional housing for families was huge.
Yeah.
That's such an amazing resource for this community.
Yeah. Great.
Last night